My name is Frederic S. Durbin. You can call me Fred. That's my most recent book, A Green and Ancient Light. All my life I've written books and stories for both grown-ups and children. I also have a passion for typewriters. I like finding them, cleaning them up, repairing them if necessary, and especially using them. I'm a writer. They're writing machines. Let's talk about them. Beach rhythms flow in circles. Perfections teach us to die. Robley Wilson. In the house where I grew up, one room connected to the next, so you could keep going without retracing your steps and come back around to where you started. For some of us of a certain age, our journey with typewriters was like that. Back in the shadows, glinting atop a worn desk, was an L.C. Smith typewriter from 1937. My aunt had saved up for it and bought it new off the shelf of a store when she finished high school. By the time of my childhood, no one used it but me. I was taught the proper reverence for it, and then I was free to clack out my little stories on it. Thus, the twig was bent. Thus, the seed was planted in me that would grow, nearly 5 decades later, into full-flowering typewriter mania. For a book I was writing, I built a model ship out of balsa wood. I wanted to be able to visualize the different decks, the hawsers, the railings, the shadowy spaces inside. I realized I was building that L.C. Smith from my childhood. When I compared the shapes, they were the same. I was making a ship out of a typewriter. My mom was a librarian. She built the libraries in our town's 4 public elementary schools. I remember her office on the 2nd floor of Memorial School. I remember her typewriter. I know now that it must have been a Royal FP. I remember that red Royal badge that you pushed to pop the hood. I remember her typing cards for the library's card catalog. How do you do that? I would ask, watching her touch type. How do your fingers know where to go? You learn, she said. Why aren't they in alphabetical order? I would ask. No, she said, if they were in alphabetical order, you couldn't do it. For Christmas 2015, my wife surprised me with the gift of a 1951 Underwood SX100. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, my father-in-law, who fortunately is an engineer, worked some long nights in his basement, getting the old thing to work, so that my wife could present me with a working machine. I loved it. I loved how it looked, how it smelled. I loved how the parts moved. I remembered what it was like to be a kid again, staring into those shadowy depths of a typewriter, those wells from which words came up to be whacked onto the paper, into its fibers. I was hooked. I get some puzzled glances when people hear that I'm hunting for typewriters. What do you do with them? They ask. You like them? They want to know why. Why a machine that can't store text? Why a draft that must be retyped, not simply reprinted? Why choose slowness and smudges and irrevocable mistakes over smooth efficiency. Oh, we still love our computers. I and all the typewriter enthusiasts I know like to save our writing and transmit it electronically and make use of all those fonts and search engines and formatting tools that the digital age provides. You see, we're not walking away from the computers, but life and experience have brought us around again to a fresh perspective. Following our own tracks, we've discovered an amazing space in which the new and the old exist side by side, each with something to offer. Most of us couldn't see it as clearly when word processors made their grand entrance, when digital writing appeared to offer unilateral progress and the sole gateway to the future. We've lived with efficiency for long enough now that we're increasingly aware of its drawbacks. We wonder who is watching us as we surf and browse. We realize the very options that can save us time are quite often wasting our time. As writers, we may shut the door and escape the distractions of the physical world, only to plunge ourselves into another quagmire of distraction. Social media, email, articles, videos, shopping. We've set up our writing desks in the brunt of a hurricane, and we marvel that no work is getting done. Or rather, all the work is getting done, and all the play, and all the conversations are taking place as we whirl and cavort in the roar of the world. But we're usually not doing that one thing we sat down to do. We're not writing. The typewriter is an utterly dedicated machine. It's built for one purpose. To take up with it is to enter a tranquil state in which the instant messaging window isn't just closed for a minute. It's not even an option. With the typewriter, we're unplugged, off the grid, and we're producing something that is itself an object of art, not just an intellectual property. Behold, here are letters impressed into paper. We have hammered like Hephaestus at the forge. We have graven our runes, sounded our barbaric yawp. Perhaps it is the first draft of a poem or story. Maybe it's a chapter of a novel. It may indeed be correspondence, part of a conversation with a friend. But it's one conversation that has gotten our undivided attention. It's focused and purposeful. Typists will tell you that there's something infectiously pleasant about the physicality of typing, the rhythm, the effort that it requires. I think it's akin to taking a walk, that journey steadily forward, that use of the muscles, hand and forearm muscles in this case, stimulates the brain in ways that the slouched, effortless glide of the flat keyboard does not. Those who typewrite describe the difference in the process. With computers, we think on the screen. We try things, see how they look, and then fiddle with them. Typewriting is more of a commitment. We cannot stay and tweak. We cannot retreat. The words, when they leave our fingers, are going onto the paper for better or worse. If we don't like everything about this foray, we can do it better next time, but not this time. Typewriters train us to write in our heads, to think carefully before we blurt. Dare I say that such reflection is a skill well worth developing in this age of instantaneous communication? If more people weighed their words before the spew, wouldn't the internet be a more civilized place? I've heard many a professional writer say that the computer is too fast for good writing, that the slowness of composing with a pen, pencil, or typewriter allows the first step of editing to occur even as the words are still journeying toward the paper. And this is what we've been seeking, what we modern writers have run so fast and far to attain. Time alone in a world blissfully free of distraction, a world that demands steady action, that requires us to work. One other benefit of typewriting early drafts is that it leaves a trail, a record that is both aesthetic and possibly worth preserving. As a digital writer, I leave nothing behind. When I make changes to my draft, I don't save a copy of the old version. It's no longer state of the art, and I don't want it around to confuse me. But if one works with a typewriter, the hard copy of every draft is there, in all its marked up, messy glory. The development of various story elements can be traced. There is a great thrill to it, the search for typewriters. It's rare to find the enthusiast who owns just one. Some second-hand shops group their typewriters together, giving us a rich banquet on a single tabletop. More delightful still are the shops that leave their typewriters scattered here and there, so that we can hunt them like prized mushrooms, like Easter eggs. We race about, children on Christmas morning, wondering what awaits a room away. Sometimes they find us. Once people know we're typewriter nuts, our nets widen. Friends tell us what they've seen at a flea market. Relatives bring us old treasures in need of loving care. We enthusiasts locate each other. We buy, sell, and trade. Of course, we hunt online too, but there's nothing quite like finding typewriters in their natural habitat, out there among the barrels and dusty books and ladder-back chairs. That's where they've been waiting for us, in the attics and closets, the spare rooms and basements and sheds, biding their time, waiting for us to catch up with them. To repair them is to listen, to feel with the fingertips. Where does a click interrupt the smooth motion? Where is the irregularity, the break in the flow? Where is the harmony thrown into discord? Look from the side, from underneath. Look from all angles. Apply bright light. Feel the pulse. Feel the circles of the machine. There are many circular parts to a typewriter. The cylindrical platen, rolling out page after page. The round keys there to meet our fingertips and interpret our brains to the machine. The gears that make things move. The springs that spiral, pulling in the dark, tiny but crucial, working unsung. All these circles on the elegant inventions that have come around to meet us at the right moment. For 40 years and more, I was not ready for typewriters. I was absorbing, studying, living, learning my trade. Now I'm writing with all the tools available, the old and the new. In my latest book, A Green and Ancient Light, the main character tries to unlock the secrets of the past, even as he learns to live in the present and begins to discover the future. It's a book that I hope will whisper to the reader's memory, for there are treasures there in our memories to be sorted from the clutter, polished up, degreased, and given some light oil. Their usefulness will be found. It's exciting to see more and more writers coming to this point, rediscovering the effectiveness of a dedicated writing machine. I like what Richard Polt has said. I want a machine that helps me think, not one that thinks for me. It's been a privilege for me to work together with Richard and with Andrew McFeeters on editing the Cold Hard Type series of fiction anthologies. It's wonderful to see writers from around the world, writers of all ages, using typewriters as they were intended. The type bars fly, the words flow. Typewriters evoke memory. More often than not, those who see me typing will stop and come closer. They might close their eyes and bask in the clickety-clack, remembering Dad, or Mom, or high school. Or maybe they're only remembering pictures, a technology they vaguely heard their elders mention, and are wondering about this curious thing before them that is not quite a computer, but has a lingering scent of age and metal. They will want to touch the keys and try the machine out. I let them. But the typewriters themselves are manifestations of memory. They bear the scratches, the scars of long service. A few exude the hint of cigarette smoke, for offices were once filled with its clouds. Many of my fleet were out there churning words when the stock market crashed, when Al Capone was running Chicago, when Pearl Harbor was bombed. We humans go through many computers in our lives, but in their lives, typewriters go through many of us. In that way, they're like violins, like ancestral swords. So I use mine with honor and treat them with respect. I try to leave them in better condition than I found them. I am not their first user, nor will I be their last. For now, in this brief moment when we work together, we will make the world different with our words. Hopefully, we will make it better.